Hello, everyone. Macintosh here. All right, so I already covered at least the basics of the Vanguard keynote. And what I'm going to talk about now in this video is going to be much more extensive. And let me check my seat over here. I think I may have slid over. There we go. Yeah, a little bit better. Yeah, right there. Yeah, I kind of have to place space myself here in this position. But yeah, so so this video is going to be talking about everything I've ever experienced at Fanfest. Oh my god, what a convention that was. I rarely ever go to real life conventions these days. Like the ones I've been going to regularly every year happen to be virtual with exclusively the Ferality online experience, or Fox for short. So Fox is Ferality Online Experience, with experience, spelled with an X in the beginning. But other than that, though, I've only ever attended the only real life conventions I've ever attended in my lifetime happen to be either anime conventions and nothing else. However, that wasn't until last week when I attended Fanfest. It was not an anime convention. It was not a furry convention, although it might start evolving. Who knows into one, but a little bit more into that. But it was actually my first video game specific convention. In the case of Fanfest, that would be EVE Online, as well as Vanguard, Frontier, and that's generally about it as far as I know. So it's like they feature the top three most popular games from Fenris Creations IPs. I've already explained to you in a separate video about the reason why Fenris Creations made the change. But moving on. So I'm just gonna go from beginning to end about my trip to Iceland, my time being over there, the people I've interacted with, and my trip back. And so I'm gonna spare you all the boring details about like what it took for me to actually get the reservations, how to argue, not argue, more like being on top of my job to making sure that they approved my vacation request and all that jazz. It's the reason why I didn't really buy my tickets immediately until I have solid confirmation months ahead of time, because my job as an aircraft mechanic is like a bit like weird with the schedule. We change rotations. Like we do rotations with the schedule every 4 months, and then we do a full rotation of the work days every year. And so yeah, so it's like so every 12 months we do a rotation of the work weeks. But other than that, though, it's like that's why I've been always holding off on placing my reservations and everything, because I didn't want to make a reservation and all of a sudden have to kind of make a last minute change and not screw everything up. But yeah, moving on. So I finally got on board on my first flight, flying all the way from Miami International, all the way up to Boston, Washington International. It was on 2 different airlines, by the way. The first one was Southwest Airlines, going up from Miami to Boston. And then I would hop off of the Southwest airline and then hop on over to the Iceland Air. And so once I got into the Iceland Air flight, it was direct to Keflavik. And then from Keflavik over, taking the fly bus from their terminal at the airport in Keflavik to the bus terminal over at Reykjavik, which was like about a 45-minute drive, more or less. And it's basically a 45-minute drive through the countryside too. So it's like you get and you're driving on this bus that has this epic view, that has all these wide open windows. You can see everything. Like you can see the mountains. You can see what looks like maybe some steam coming off from like distant mountains in the back. And like you can see the open plains, the rocks, the jagged edges. I was like, holy shit, this is different. Like, I know I've been traveling through the States myself. Like I've traveled through Indiana, I've traveled through Texas, I've traveled through Pennsylvania, I've traveled through North Carolina, Georgia, and like most other places. I've also been to I think it was like Mississippi. And yeah, and also Oklahoma. I've been to Oklahoma and Arizona. Yeah, I've traveled quite a bit. like at least throughout my lifetime. But none of it prepared me for this. None of it ever prepared me for what I was about to see in Iceland. Iceland was a completely different experience. And me being Florida man, hopping over to Iceland, practically one of the coldest areas at the top of the North Atlantic. I was expecting like absolute blizzard like temperatures. But surprisingly, when I got there, it was actually not as cold as I thought it would be. It was more or less like about as cold as Florida would ever get during its winter. And apparently that temperature is about relatively warm for Iceland. So I was like, shit. I'm really glad I came around in the month of May then, because God help me if I ever live in Iceland and then I have to see like perpetual darkness for much of the year and seeing like and experiencing like cold temperatures, like probably sub-zero temperatures. That's gotta be crazy up there. But yeah, and also one thing that really kind of threw me out of the loop though was the not only the jet lag with the time zone difference, but also the fact that when you're so up on the latitude, the the sun the sunlight was still peeking through the horizon at midnight, and it didn't really actually turn truly dark until like around 1 or 2 ish in the morning, and then the sun came right back up at around 5 ish. I'm like, fuck, man, crazy. So that really screwed my sleep schedule. Like when I woke up, I was like, is it still morning? Is it morning? Is it still evening? What's my watch say? Fuck. I need to go to sleep. Basically how it was. So anyways, when I got there though, like, and this is an unfortunate experience for me though, like this never happened to me before, but as soon as I got to the airport terminal at Keflavik and I was looking at the carousel for my luggage was not there. I'm like, oh fuck, what's going on? So I went to the front desk, and they told them, and I showed them the ticket that I have, because whenever you go travel along and you check in your luggage, they give you a copy of the ticket. So I gave them the ticket, and they say, oh, it's still in Boston apparently. Like, really? Why didn't it transfer over to the other plane? Well, we don't know. I assumed that it would be transferring over to the other plane because when I checked in at Miami International, they gave me both tickets. Actually, they gave me the tickets for both the Southwest flight to Boston as well as the Keflavik, as well as the Iceland Air flight to Keflavik. And when you look at the luggage tag, the luggage tag actually said KEF, Keflavik. So I assumed that when I land at Boston, they would just automatically transfer that over to the Iceland Air flight. And so when I got to Keflavik, it wasn't there. It turned out that it's like they might have just simply mixed it up with the like as just regular luggage, probably because it was a different airline. Because remember, there are two different airlines. So I guess what I should have done was go to the carousel, which would require me to actually leave the security area and then have to check back in through security, which I probably would have had to do that anyways, because it was basically going from a domestic flight transferring over to an international flight. So it kind of makes sense there now that I think about it. So the next time when you people are traveling through, say, Iceland, or not, when you're traveling anywhere international, really, and you happen to have two different flights, one with a different airline and another one, like when you have two different airlines, or if one is domestic and the other is international, check to make sure that you have to pick up your bag at the carousel first, because chances are they might just drop it off there and you have to pick it up and then you have to carry it over through the security checkpoint again. So, word of warning over there. But they did find the bag, and within 24 hours they brought it to my room that I rented over at the Grettisgata, or is it Grettisgata? I think it's Grettisgata street. Like I rented a room in Grettisgata, which is a small little road in in Keflavik. When I got to Keflavik, no, correction, no, Reykjavik is a small little road in the town of Reykjavik. So Gretzgata is where I was living at. And so when I got there, like everything was in walking distance. Like when I saw like the first most prominent feature I've seen was like the church, a giant church with like the structure looks very similar to the structure looked very similar to what you saw in the Avengers movie with like Asgard and all that. Oh, not the Avengers movie, the Thor films from Marvel Comics. So yeah, it's like it kind of looked something similar to that, or I guess the film probably took inspiration from that design. Who knows? But yeah, that church was massive. Like, damn. And it also had this it also has this statue in the front with the Viking holding his axe, his battle axe. And so yeah, it's like that was really cool, honestly. And so I walked past it, took some pictures, but I walked past it. And a little bit further down, actually just a couple of blocks down, was actually my room. And so yeah, like it was pretty nice and cozy too. Didn't really have much in the way of like central air conditioning really, but what it had was basically heaters. And honestly, given the climate, there probably wasn't any point in having actual central air conditioning because when you're in the top of the North Atlantic, who the fuck needs air conditioning? Yeah, that's like, oh my god. So I was like chilling there, and I decided, let me just take a walk through over there. Let me just go walk down along the shoreline. It wasn't really a beach, so to say, more like a rocky shoreline, like with boulders and all that kind of stuff. And then there was like this monument that kind of like shaped like a ship, like the Viking ship. And yeah, there were also tourists there. You could tell there were tourists. Besides the fact that they were like, speaking different languages besides Icelandic, which me being Hispanic, I can tell who's speaking Spanish and all, and also listening to recognizing a little bit of Russian. There was a little bit of like Russian visitors in there, what have you. I think there were some people there from India as well. Could be wrong. But yeah, moving on. But yeah, it was like Reykjavik has become more or less like a tourist destination, as you can tell. But when I was like walking along those, like everything was like so beautiful to look at. And when I got to the shore, I could see in the distance the Harpa concert hall. That was the venue for Fanfest. And so yeah, I was like, I decided, time for me to just walk over there. So I walked over there, and I noticed that like they were also already setting up for pre-registration. And I've already read the email. And they said that it's good for you to just pick up the badges that you ordered. And like I ordered my badge already ahead of time, so I went over there. I went to the pre-registration line and picked up my badge. My EVE Online name is Gerald Sphinx, member of the small little corporation known as Marauding Dragons. We don't have any alliance whatsoever. We're kind of like trying to do our thing, trying to figure things out, Dragon, I wish you were here with me, man. Like, I wish you were there with me, man. I was like, it would have been a fun time together. And so, but the rest of the day, though, I was just hanging out and like I was like keeping tabs with people in the Discord. The eVanguard Discord has an events channel, and people were like talking about like where they were, what they're doing, because a handful of the members in the eVanguard Discord also happen to be visiting Fanfest. So like I went over there, like I went online like on my phone, like checking in, and I noticed like, oh, people are actually hanging out in some place. Some of the folks from the Vanguard Discord are hanging out here, and so I was like checking in, keeping tabs, like asking around where they at and all that stuff. And so one of them said that they routinely hang out at the Laundromat Cafe. I was like, oh, that's an interesting concept. A laundromat that's a cafe. So yeah, and yeah. I think it was like Laurelite or Denny Fleetfoot that mentioned it. And so I decided, I'm gonna go over there and check it out. And it's like literally just another 10-minute walk, and everything was in 10 to 15-minute walk of everything else in Reykjavik. So it's like from the bars, the dollar stores, the clothing stores, the concert hall, even the church. It's perfect. So I didn't really need to rent any vehicle whatsoever, although people were driving around in little electric scooters. Yeah. Other than that, I went over to the laundromat cafe. Yeah, it's like I was introduced by the hosts there to take a seat, and that's where I actually met some of my friends from the Discord for the first time too. First time I met Sawdeath. First time I met Eleanor. First time I met Lorelite, Denny, and Possum. All in the first, like all right there in the first evening together. Like, damn, hell of an introduction. And I figured since I'm not having to worry about having to drive or anything like that, I decided, and I'm on my vacation. I'm like, fuck this. I'm gonna get a beer. I, One of the things that always annoyed me with like my profession, like as an aircraft mechanic and as a private pilot and also a concealed weapons holder in the States, I have to be as sober as a bird. Like, I can't even leave my house with half a beer in my system. That's how fucking dry I have to be. Yeah, it sucked. Other than that, though, now that I'm in Iceland, I get to enjoy myself finally. So I tried like Viking beer, Thule beer, Gull beer. Yeah, it's like I was tasting it all, and so I've ordered a like burger. I think it was like a Mexican burger. I think I ordered. And yeah, by the way, at the Laundromat Cafe, they have this thing going where they seat you at the table. There's a QR code, and that QR code is actually specific to the table that you're sitting on. So when you scan it and you order your food there, they actually already know who ordered it, so they'll bring it to you automatically. And I pay for it online as well. Now, for security reasons, and this is something that like it was a good recommendation by a good friend of mine, Denny Fleetfoot. He recommended me the service. It's similar to Cash App, but but it's more suited for like international travel. Revolut. This is not a paid endorsement, by the way. This is not an ad. It's just something based on my experience, and so far that's my only experience, like the only international equivalent to Cash App that I've ever experienced so far. Well, the way how like it does also take in money from Cash App as well, if you know how to play around with it. And so, and me, I already know how to move money around, and so it's basically one of those like layers of protection, to protect my personal information and to avoid suspicious activity in my bank and all that kind of stuff. But another feature that Revolut has is you could also generate one-time use credit cards, like, or one-time use debit cards. So it's like that if you're going somewhere and you're not exactly sure about their security on on the accounts that they have, but you want to buy something there on credit or on debit, just give them the one-time use debit card information, and that's it. Pretty good though. And so I bought my food. I got the beer. I enjoyed the beer, by the way. And that's when a good friend of mine, Denny Fleetfoot, actually approached me. He walked right in, and there he was, good old Brit, right there, just looking at me. So we stood up, like, hey, so I was like, hey, hugging each other and everything, like bros. And then later on, like eventually, I didn't notice this, but like it's like apparently Sawdeath was already entering, but he was seated with like some other folks. And so like when Denny came in, he saw Sawdeath, and like he introduced him to me. It's like, okay, that was it. So yeah, Sawdeath moved over, and then later came Eleanor. Actually, I think it was like Eleanor first, and then Possum, or maybe Possum first, and Eleanor. Can't remember the order. really. Like all of them came at once. Um, I think eventually at some point Lorelei came in. Can't remember if it was that same day or maybe the next day that I ran into her. Yeah, like it was like a really good first introduction to the whole thing. Oh man, feeling drained already talking about it, to be honest. Yeah, first time and like able to see Possum's face, able to see Eleanor's face, Sawdust's face. Well, I already had an idea of what Sawdust looked like and how Denny looked like, as well as Lorelei, but I had no idea what Eleanor and Possum looked like. But at least Possum still exhibited that same energy that he exudes while on the Discord. So, one of the gifts that Possum actually gave me while I was at Fanfest was a 3D printed model of the Galente medium drop suit, and I was like, oh, and he took the high poly model of the drop suit and turned that into a 3D print. And so, like, it's just a helmet, really. And so the helmet and the little platform, although it's missing the mount. So, like, I figured I'll take this home anyways and print it out. I'll print out the mount, but I still have it right over here on my 3D printer. So yeah, we basically just chat the rest of the way, and then later on we stopped by at another. I think it was called the Dubliner. It was It's like I think it was called. It's like an Irish pub, I think, but it was called the Dubliner. And I think there were like two places named the Dubliner in Reykjavik. Can't remember. Like one that was like really close to where I live, and another one was like further out, like a little bit further out, like a 15-minute walk. Yeah. There was also a tattoo parlor there. And so, what else? We were having so much fun there. And then like I had to go home because we still had to kind of like sleep in early because we have to wake up a little bit early for the opening ceremony the next day. And so everybody, like, we were just having fun there. And then like the next day when everything started opening up at Harpa, like walking in, and yeah, it's like the weird architecture that it has with the walls was like, but also just fascinating, the design. There were some parts around the building where like the winds actually kind of kicked up, and like people had to kind of like tuck in their badges inside their sweaters or jackets because the wind would just blow against the tags so fast as like it would sometimes rip the badges off from the hooks. I'm like, ooh, oh boy, that sucks. And so this actually kind of happened as well to I think Rattati. Like that's actually the first time we've met the developers. Like, so the gang and I, the first place we went to as a gang was to the room that was titled the Hub, or the Trade Hub. And there's where they have like the booths for E-Frontiers, a booth for Project Discovery, which is all about citizen science, as well as a center display for the JITA, the 3D printed model of JITA. Pretty extensive model, by the way. And around there, it's like it had these like cylinders, like these metal cylinders with tags underneath. So you can just put on top of a pedestal and then scroll through the history of EVE Online through its development. But on the side, there was a booth of 8 PCs, 8 computers that each have a copy of a specific build of EVE Vanguard. And Lorelei was there, and so was Denny, Possum, Sawdust, Eleanor. We were there. And Laura was checking out the build, seeing like what changes are in there. Yeah, she did spot a few like differences in there, like in graphics, but like they were just minor changes. But we did notice something though, like when it came to like the people around the computers, they were staying longer. They were playing much longer in that build. and they were also repeatedly playing the game. Like they would leave and then they come back later on, as we noticed. And sometimes, like a lot of times, they're teaming up together, and we. This was funny though. This was funny. So when I hopped on, and I was just playing around, like I was just exploring. I deployed to the Lost Convoy map, and I was just basically doing it solo. And I was taking out NPCs and all. And then I noticed in the distance, oh shit, there's these other guys, one of these other players. So me being me, I like to introduce myself to them and just basically just hop like that, like like that, just hop. But they kept shooting at me. So I was like, I'm trying to dip and dodge, like the 5 Ds of dodgeball. And he's like dash, dip, dive, dash, and dodge, something. And of course, like I ended up getting killed because like I was trying to like get close to them, but I wasn't really trying to kill them. I was trying to like kind of hint at them, hey, I'm a player. And then like when one of them killed me, I was like, I stood up on my chair, like looked over the monitor at the other players, like, okay, which one of you did that? Which one of you was that? And one of the girls was like, say, oh, that was you. I thought that was some advanced NPC. Oh. Apparently they took me as an advanced NPC. So I've never heard of an advanced NPC just doing like tick, tick. Yeah, you see the kind of that was kind of like the kind of energy I had when I was at Fanfest. Just reminiscing about it just kind of boost me up, Like I don't need caffeine when all I got to do is remember Fanfest. And so, and there later on though, we actually met for the first time face to face, the developers. We met face to face FC Rattati, FC Collins, FC JS, as well as FC Naked Wolf. Please forgive me. I can't remember the exact name. Tall guy with the glasses. That's how I remember him. I think he was like was he like the chief technical officer or something like that, or chief technical director? Don't know, or chief tech lead. I don't know. I forgot. It's like it had his position like mentioned there on his tag. I just can't remember the name, but I'm pretty sure like you recognize me when I'm describing you there. It's like you can correct me when I'm wrong. I don't mind. So yeah, like it was like the first time seeing like Collins and Rattati. It's like, yeah, Rattati's a little bit taller than me, just a little bit. Collins, like I think he's probably like my height equivalent, or maybe just a little less. I can't tell. But yeah. So what else? And we like it was just chatting up together, like sharing details and all that stuff. But like I noticed that Rattati was like a little bit hush hush, because I guess he was just trying to avoid spoilers, because the next day was the Vanguard keynote. Although that same day that we first met will be the opening ceremony as well as the Eve Online keynote. So but there were 3 keynotes at FanFest, one for EVE Online, another one for Vanguard, and the other one for Frontiers. For those of you who don't know, Frontiers is the blockchain equivalent of EVE Online, but it's set in a universe where it's an alternative universe where a what if scenario. It's like one of those like what if type games where what happened if the colonization of New Eden failed. Because you know that in the lore of EVE Online, colonization of the New Eden cluster by the inhabitants of the Milky Way galaxy tens of thousands of years ago was successful. We've practically colonized the entire cluster inside 100 years, which is a record time. And then suddenly the New Eden wormhole, the Eve wormhole collapsed completely. It cut off the supply chain from the Milky Way galaxy forever, and we were left to fend for ourselves as society collapsed, and then we had to kind of rebuild. But by then, there were some civilizations that survived and then rebuilt, and then came New Eden. So it's like we succeeded, then we collapsed, and then we rebuilt, and here we are. But Frontiers was different. Frontiers, from what I understand, is what happens if the initial colonization effort completely failed. And so that's basically the premise of it. Vanguard, on the other hand, is in the same universe as EVE Online instead. And it is the spiritual successor to Dust 514. It's not Dust 514, though, and it's not the sequel to Dust 514, but more like just a spiritual successor that happens to share some of the DNA. But I've already talked about that in the previous video. So, Rattati was rather hush on some of the details. But again, I think he was just trying to avoid spoilers. And, of course, we basically spent like much of our day there hanging out, checking out the different booths. We noticed that they had like this silent auction thing going around where they had like different plaques, like more like symbols of the different empires, like one for the Galente, Amar, Kaldari, Mimitar, and they also had some shirts, some models, and it was like a silent auction where people just like write down what they're bidding and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it started off with like small amounts, like the tens and the 50s and the hundreds, and there's like some like pretty damn high, like oh damn. And there was also like donations going around. I think the charity, that was featured at the event was the Icelandic Search and Rescue. I think it was like for the Icelandic Search and Rescue. But yeah, I do recall that at the end of it all, the charity raised tens of thousands of dollars. I think actually, from what I understood, I think it was like maybe like 60,000 or something like that, maybe more. Can't remember the exact dollar value, but it was quite a lot. So then came the opening ceremonies. Like the first time, like I met like the guys and I managed to hop onto the opening ceremonies, and we got onto the front row for the opening ceremonies. And then like there we get the introduction from the various developers and eventually CEO Hilmar himself. Like he's gotten wiser looking. I'm not going to call him old, but because we all are old, kind of technically. Because like if I'm calling him old, I gotta call myself old. So yeah, kind of makes me realize that the majority of EVE Online players are like at millennial age, maybe Gen X age. Oh shit. And so moving on. And so they were opening up, talking about like EVE Online and the progress of CCP games and all that kind of stuff. And that's when they were announcing. That's when they initially talked about their rebranding, their official rebranding from CCP Games back to Fenris Creations. And as I said before, Fenris Creations was originally its own name back in the beginning. So CCP Games actually went through 2 rebrandings technically now. So its first original name was Fenris Creations when they made the original board game called Danger Games, which partly helped fund EVE Online's development, if not entirely. And then later, when they published EVE Online, they already rebranded to CCP Games, and then recently this year they rebranded it back to Fenris Creations. Fenris Creations, again, as I said in the previous video, is named after the Norse mythology wolf, Fenrir. Now, on stage, Hilmar was describing the nature of Fenrir, what's the mythos behind the creature, and so then they also featured like their logo and all that kind of stuff. And the logo that they featured for Fenris Creations is very similar to the old EVE Vanguard logo. Like the EVE Vanguard logo, when you look at it, it's like, oh, okay. So I guess they probably took inspiration from that and applied it to the company logo instead. because right now Vanguard's current logo is the the digitized V. It's a V shape, but with like a little bit of like an apex point in the middle, kind of like to signify the A in Vanguard. So it's like V, and there's like a little point right there to signify the A in Vanguard. And it's completely digitized. You can see the digital effects or the glitching effects. Other than that, after the opening ceremony concluded and all, or actually just near the end of the opening ceremonies, what was it? Oh no, wait, that's for one of the keynotes. So moving on. When the opening ceremonies concluded, we started leaving Harpa and we head back to the Laundromat Cafe as usual. It's one of those places we go to for when we want to just chill and talk and eat. Yeah. So again, like everything, keep in mind though that around this time though, I was still needing to get a set of fresh clothes because my luggage was still pending, and so I already had to like buy clothes. I went shopping around. It's like honestly, a lot of the shops, like, man, clothing can be expensive though. But I did find like the dollar store equivalent of like there's this store. It's like I think it's called Bonus, and there it's like it's their dollar store or something like that. Kind of similar to Dollar General, but a lot more organized and cleaner, and the people there are much more friendly. Hell, all the locals are completely friendly. And so, really good place to live in. And so, let's see. I had to buy my toothpaste, some mouthwash, because that was part of my luggage that they were still recovering at the time. Fresh underwear and a new shirt. But yeah, other than that, oh yeah, and I bought a family size pack of chocolate. We'll talk about that at some point. I'm going to get to that. What happened with the chocolate bar? So it's gonna be it's funny as fuck. So the next that same day later on, like eventually the luggage finally came, and so I picked it up from the bus terminal and got back, and yeah, there was my clothing. But anyways, moving on. The next day was actually no, not the next day, That same day that we had the opening ceremonies. Later in the afternoon, we had the Eve Online keynote, which I attended, and once again, I was seated with friends over at the front right row, and then they're once again coming on stage talking about the progress of Eve Online, and their discussion about the Cradle of War expansion for Eve, and what else? They also talked about the military campaigns, and they actually hinted of Vanguard eventually contributing to the military campaigns at some point. And near the end, that's actually like near the end of the keynote, I think it was CCP Collins that came on stage and talked about the like a little bit about what they're going to be talking about in the Vanguard keynote. It was basically that's when they introduced Operation Avalon, but they only gave like a brief overview. But the rest of the details, the juicy details, they saved for the Vanguard keynote, which I later attended, and there is when I initially thought that I sat on the front right row, but then I remembered, for the Vanguard keynote specifically, I think I sat on it was still close to the front right row, but not exactly. It was like more like just on the third row from the front, but still on the right. So it was basically just close enough to the front anyways. But of course, like me and the guys were all just hanging together in that general area. So it was. And by the way, that same day when the opening ceremonies and the Eve Online keynote, as well as the Vanguard keynote, came about, Denny Fleetfoot was wearing his cosplay. Like he was wearing his militia cosplay. In Vanguard, there are these NPCs like called the local militias. That when you look at them, they kind of look like a mix between the Amar drop suit with Caldari helmets, but with a rag draped around their necks. And these NPCs are like really aggressive. They just pop out of nowhere. They lay traps for you. They ambush you sometimes. And so they were fun to fight against. And Denny had that cosplay going. He made the helmet and everything. He wasn't the only one that was cosplaying though. There was a couple other people. One dude from Fanfest convention. He was wearing like the capsuleer, like it looked like a one of those like Soros outfits that Eve players would wear in their avatars. And it's like it had like all these angular plates and everything. Like it was really good, like really well made. And besides that guy and Denny, there was also Sawdeath. Well, Sawdeath, he had like the 3D printed helmet. But next FanFest, he's hoping to have a complete cosplay that time. So next time, like hopefully when I see him, he'll probably have his full cosplay in action. I have faith in you, buddy. Keep at it. And so, besides that, though, and this kind of took me off guard, though, because I thought that Possum and I were the only furries in the convention. Like me, I didn't wear any suits or any cosplay. I just had my ferality, my ferality hoodie, which kind of stood out. The specifically the ferality aqua hoodie, which when you look at it, is like had bright colors. It stood out. I like the design, by the way. And as soon as I got there, I was like, I had some people kind of like looking at me, like it's like I didn't mind. I knew exactly what I was doing. And hell, even when I went to one like the Dubliner, the one of the pubs in the area, I noticed a couple of people were like eyeing me in my hoodie, as if they just recognized exactly what ferality is. One guy in particular, he noticed me, and although I don't think he noticed that I noticed that he noticed. Say, you notice? And so, because I kind of use my peripheral vision very effectively, and so it's like the guy's like looking at me. He's like kind of like looking at me like this. Let me actually check my camera. So, yeah. So from this angle that you see, like that's basically how I saw him. I saw him like from this angle, and then like like when when we were at the bar, like he like passively looks at me, he glances and like glances back a little bit at me, but we didn't really make eye contact. So he just like he peeks back, checks his six, and then like he notices me, and then, like he has that double take, and then like I see him reach in his pocket, and like he just like pulls out the phone, just a quick like he took a picture, like he wasn't being incognito about it too. It was like it's pretty obvious. Like you see, you know that Shaquille O'Neal meme, the one where like Shaquille O'Neal's like trying to hide behind that tiny ass tree, like he's like pretending that nobody will notice him. That's basically how it was. It was like, I saw you. If you're watching this video, I saw you. I hope you like it though. What you think? Put in the comments. So yeah. Oh shit. Let me just stand up the rest of the way. Let me put this chair away. Yeah. So. Oh man. So what else? What else am I going to talk about? I'm going to stumble in my own cable over here. So, anyways. So, interestingly though, in that same night that I was at the Dubliner, I actually met this one guy for the first time. He was like outside of the normal group. I've never met this guy before. It's like I don't know him. It's like I don't think I've ever communicated with him initially ever. But like he noticed my ferality hoodie though. He was not not the guy who tried to do the whole like snap picture of me or anything. No. This is a different guy. He had like this kind of like this interesting hat, kind of like close to like fedora or something like that, and like with a beard. He had like this long coat on him. It was like he looked like a pretty chill dude. And then like he looked at me. He was like immediately talking to me and everything. It's like oh hey, what's up? How you doing? It's like, and then like I think he was trying to look to see who a particular person that he's contacting on Discord with, because like, he was trying to ask me, are you this guy? It's like, and I'm looking at it, it's like, no, I'm not that guy on Discord though. My name's Macintosh. It's like, oh, but because unfortunately for the Evon, like for the Fanfest badges, I think they only took the Eve character names. I don't think they have adopted the Vanguard character names or the Frontier character names or what have you. And so I was basically Gerald Sphinx, even though my Discord is Macintosh. I'm popularly known as Macintosh. But anyways, moving on. So we were already like chatting up though. Like we already had a couple of beers and we were chatting up, and it turned out this guy's a furry. So that brings the total number of known furries in the convention to at least 3. But he wasn't just any furry. No, this guy's a fursuiter. No, a professional fursuiter. And so he wasn't wearing his fursuit then, but like when I initially met him. But the next day he did bring his fursuit, and he was showing me pictures and videos of his fursuit. If you're curious about his name, Cardox the Dragon. Cardox the Dragon. I still remember you, buddy. And so he introduced me to his Discord, which is mostly it's mostly translated to Icelandic, but it'll also translate in English at the same time for the English readers. So I got invited to that Discord, and later, like I met him with like while he was dressing in full suit. Like the suit is like layered plates of armor, like kind of like scales, like layered scales over his legs, his arms, and around the torso. And then later on, and by the way, forgive me, Cardox, if I got your pronouns incorrect. I just can't remember exactly. You can go ahead and correct me. But anyways, so it was a really good design. And as for the head was like kind of like kind of like a skull. It was a skull design. I forgot what it's a dragon species, of course, but it's one of those types of like fursuits where it's like they have like the full suit and then there's the skull. That kind of inspiration. Pretty damn cool. Love it. And what impressed me the most is Cardox does pole dancing. Yep, does pole dancing on platforms. Yep, high heel platforms. Yep. I was like, oh shit, that's impressive. And not just that, not just on regular poles that you see that are like anchored at the bottom and the top. No, apparently this person does pole dancing on poles that would swing on the ceiling. Like, whoa, what the? I don't have that kind of upper body strength. Like, like when I got home, I'm like, I need to start lifting weights. Fuck this shit. I'm lifting weights here. I need to get back. I need to strengthen my glutes. I need to strengthen my glutes. Shit. I need this new upper body strength, like do the push-ups. Fuck. Yeah. And then came like the following day, like at the evening, like after the Vanguard keynote and everything else was done. Then came the pub crawl. Oh God, the pub crawl. When I first arrived, they did it in groups and everything. I got into one group, And when I arrived, early on, like just to chill, had this one fellow over here, like this old guy, like he kind of looks like the quintessential cool dude in the group, like with the beret. He's got the sleeveless jacket. He's got like I can't remember if it was like rounded or square sunglasses, and like he had like a bottle of Brennivin, and so he had an open bottle of Brennivin in his hand, and there were shots being handed around. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm taking a shot of Brennivin. So I did the brave thing and just like downed it, and then as soon as I took that shot, I was like, oh, damn. It was like, suddenly it kind of like warms the body, in the cold climate. I was like, oh shit, damn. Like that kind of lit me up. And so we just getting started though, like, at least that helped me keep warm. But then like, okay, we got corralled into like different groups and all that kind of stuff, and we started walking, and we started doing the pub crawl. The idea of the pub crawl is like we start at the Harpa, then we go from pub to pub, getting free drinks, and although like you're given beer tokens, by the way. Like those beer tokens are basically like prepaid, and so when you give the beer token to the bar, like the bar gives you free beer. So they were still technically paid beer, but yeah. I had my first beer at the American bar. Yeah, there's a bar in Reykjavik that's called the American Bar. Yeah, it's very interesting to see how people interpret, like American life through their bars. So, be the American that the Icelandic people think you are. Yep. Let me say that again. I kind of stumbled there. Be the American that people in Iceland think you are. I think I know there's a Japanese equivalent. Be the American the Japanese think you are. Then you see Bandit Keith, Senator Armstrong, one of the JoJo characters. Look, what was the other one? But yeah. And then finally though, like we got to another bar. I forgot the name of the other bar, but I was already having a second beer. Like it was in pints. By the way, I forgot. There was like before we even got started with the walk with the pub crawl though, just shortly after that little shot, that shot of Brennivin, there was a guy handing out free cans of pod nectar. It's basically beer, but like with the EVE Online branding. When you look at the label, though, it's literally just like the EVE Online pods, and it's called pod nectar. And I'm joking. It's like, so this is what the capsuleers are floating inside their capsules. Shit, so they're literally flying drunk. Fuck, imagine you're commanding a whole battleship or a capital ship or a Titan, and you're swimming in beer. Yeah. So I had that, and so that was before I got to the American Bar, which gave me a pint of beer, and then finally when I got to the next bar over, I was served another beer, but halfway through my beer, I wasn't just feeling tipsy. No. I know what tipsy felt like. I've been tipsy before. This was different. I was like, whoa, what's going on? Thankfully, I was already seated. And so I was like, when I saw, like, oh shit, what's going on? It's like looking at my beer. It's barely halfway. Like, holy shit, what's going on here? Like, and I started realizing I was such a lightweight. And then it dawned on me. Okay. In the afternoon, early afternoon, I did eat, but it was like chicken pita with it was just basically a chicken pita with fries and a drink. That was it. But that was basically and I realized, wait, that was basically my lunch the whole day. So with all the walking that we were doing all day, that whole lunch just gone. my body already processed it. And so I was like, oh shit. And I was just sitting there, and Sawdeath was sitting next to me, and he was looking at me. He's like, "You okay, dude? You okay?" Like you were like just sitting next to me. He's like, and I looking at him, bro. Uh, I think I hit my limit. Fuck. And like he's had a few beers too, but he could tell that I was like out of it. And like I was like trying to debate, like how the fuck did I get this? Like how the hell did I get this drunk so quick? It's like I was constantly like, oh man, did I fail to eat? Like oh, maybe I didn't eat enough. And then it clicked. That shot of Brenneman. That shot of Brenneman pushed me over the edge already. I don't know what kind of like percent alcohol by volume that drink was, but holy shit, that thing hit me. Like it started to kick in. And it was already kicking in before I even finished that pod nectar, that pod nectar beer. And I didn't even notice it. So yeah, it's like at that point, you know, like Sawdeath and I, like we agreed, like I think it's time I gotta go home. So when he was walking me home. He practically tractor beamed me back to back to the room, and I was like on the way, it's like I wasn't stumbling completely, but I was like just keeping like a steady pace, trying to count, like measure my feet, trying to make sure I don't trip over anything. And so I was looking like just random shit, like, oh hey, look at that. It's like, and then Sawdeath's like, oh yeah, I know, but let's go home. Oh god. But according to my friends, I remember, I can vaguely remember some of this stuff now because some of it's already starting to come back to me. But according to my friends, the next day when I woke up, the next day, and I got to the convention again, they were telling me, bro, you were out of it. You were shit faced. And you know, when I got home that night though, and like I was still drunk, and I decided, you know what, I'm in the mood for something. So I went to the refrigerator in my room, and I pulled out that family size chocolate. That is a big one too, like this big. Like man, Iceland has some really big chocolate bars out there. It's like these are really big. Like family size in America is like about beady. Like family size is like about that much. No, family size like these people know how to have fun. I wolfed that shit down in one sitting. I took a bite, like, yum, yum, yum. Oh, this is tasty. Let me take another, just a little bit. Took another, and then another, and another. You know, it was like before I even knew it, it was already gone. And then I started sobering up. And then when I started sobering up, it's like it started to click on me. Oh shit! So not only did I get drunk and I'm now starting to sober up, but the sugar rush I'm about to get from eating an entire bar of chocolate is gonna get. Oh god! Big decisions were made. Decisions were made, and I was paying the price. I couldn't sleep until like 3 or like 3 in the morning, like 2 or 3 in the morning. I was like, oh shit, fuck. Like, and I still had to wake up early still to attend the to attend like the events over at Harpa. And then finally, you know, like as usual though, there was like the closing ceremonies. And then shortly after the closing ceremonies, there was the party at the top of the world. They hosted their own little, basically they did like DMX style DJ event. They kind of have their own interesting music, so to speak. Kind of like it's really like heavy on the techno, but kind of like almost like grunge level, or how do I compare it to? For those of you who are on VR chat and have attended a lot of like clubs in VR, what would it compare to? Very similar to Caustics. Like, do you ever know the DJ Caustic during his during his set at Stage Flight 3. Pretty much that. That's how it very much sounded to some extent. And they kind of switched it over a little bit, but like they were heavy on the techno. And so kind of like a little bit similar to what you hear in the background right over here. One second, let me bring up the audio. Little bit similar to this, but yeah, the bass is kind of like matching up. Yeah. So, and like seeing people like having they're having their party and everything, and apparently there was also the charity dinner, which I missed, unfortunately. Like I missed out on that. Would have been nice to have the charity dinner, but yeah, and then once again, bumping up with Cardox the Dragon, and showing me the videos and all that jazz. I was like, honestly, I'm happy that I've made more friends. I've also met Juno Tristan. Is it Juno Tristan? Wait, let me see. I think I got my. One second. Hold up. Need to pick up something here. Yeah, I got my swag bag over here. Trying to remember. Just making sure it's spelled correctly and not misspelling. Yeah, Juno Tristan. Oh shit, I dropped my card. Yeah, they gave me a swag bag, a free swag bag. And they also had like some goodies in there. Cards. So they also had like a kind of like a Wheel of Fortune style thing going with like the charity, like a charity wheel. Like you just pay how many spins of the charity wheel you want, and then whatever the wheels like lands on, like you get either Plex or ship skins or even like copy of the magazine if you want. And apparently, combined with and as I said, like combined with the charity dinner, as well as the silent auction, as well as the charity wheel, they've raised like I think over $60,000 for the charity. I'm like, holy shit. I think maybe the charity wheel probably bumped it up quite a bit. I don't know. Yeah, like it was that night where it's like we're finally winding down because there were no more events, and it's basically just people just chilling in the one section of Harpa that was called the Nittedale. They call it the Nittedale because like they have like kind of like a hobby area there where like you see the women there that were just like literally knitting, literally knitting. Nittedale is basically like a play on the word citadel, so Nittedale, citadel, and just seeing a bunch of capsuleers just knitting. Like honestly, that's a wholesome project to have. Just knitting. Like, hey, I'm going to deploy Citadel. Okay, just knit a new one. Knitting. Okay, deployed. And then like near the end, though, like that, like I've met Juno Tristan as well. There were also some content creators that I've interacted with. So Juno is one of them. Let's see. What else? But yeah, like everything was winding down. I think Lorelite was like getting tired or exhausted. I don't know if it was because of the overstimulation or what have you, but you could tell that some of us were starting to get tired. Meanwhile, I started realizing that because the whole thing is almost over, I was like, oh man, it's almost over. And yeah, and so it was time for me to actually call it a night. And so seeing that we were not going to see each other again for a while, We decided, like we've given each other hugs. Possum, being possum he is, lifted me up with a bear hug. He's smaller than me and he can still lift me up. Damn. So yeah. Fun times were had. I've never been so drunk in my life. And then I got home, knocked out, making sure, but also made sure that I packed up everything and cleaned up everything. Everything was organized. And that was it. I woke up. I had to be out of the room by 11 in the morning. And then headed over to the bus terminal. I walked over with my luggage to the bus terminal. Another 45-minute drive from Reykjavik to Keflavik via the bus. And then when I got to Keflavik, I hopped on board the plane. And I was on my way to Boston. Well, not to Boston, but on my way to Orlando. Now, one thing that impressed me about Iceland's passport control system is they're really efficient. When I went to the airport, keep in mind, I was just chilling in the airport after the initial security check. I thought that was all I had to go through, but apparently I was wrong. When I went to the food court, I basically spent almost 2 hours just enjoying myself and eating, thinking, oh, I'll just simply walk to the terminal and I'll be ready to hop on. No, when I finished, it was like less than an hour. I think it was like more or less like 45, 50 minutes remaining before my flight. I was already I went over, and then I saw, oh shit, I have to actually go through another security checkpoint, and it was for customs. It was for their passport control system. And then I saw that they had like almost 2 full rooms of people waiting, and I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna be late for my flight, am I? Because I didn't realize I was supposed to be there early. And so, oh shit. I mean, we'll work something out though, hopefully. And then when I got in line, I realized we were moving unusually fast. Within 5 minutes, I was already halfway through the first room. Before the 10, 15 minutes were up, I was already in the other room. And so in about 20, 25 minutes, I was already past the checkpoint. I was like, what the? That was quick. I was like, I've never seen anything like this back in the States. Like you go to Customs and Border Patrol with their passport controls. I often joke about how they often compare to how they can compare to Walmart. Like what does Walmart and CBP have in common? They have a lot of cash. They have a lot of registers, but not enough people to staff them. Yeah, so I got to Orlando. I went through the security checkpoint. I'm now back to good old US of A. And I went to to check in with the second airline that would take me from Orlando to Miami. And then I realized, wait, I arrived at like 8 something in the evening. My next flight from Orlando to Miami was 10 in the morning the next day. I was like, holy shit. So I asked the lady at the front desk, like, so what are my options here? Like do I have any alternatives? Like, is there a flight you can bump me up early or something? And unfortunately, the earliest flight would cost me $200, and it would be at 5 in the morning instead. I'm like, fuck no. Anything else? What about a train? And apparently the train would take so long that it would be like to reach Miami it would reach Miami at like 9 in the morning, which is pointless. And it only cost me half as much as the 5 o'clock flight. So fuck that. And so I decided to just brave it. I just decided to, just take it. Not take it, but more like just accept the fact that I'm going to be stuck there at the airport for over 12 hours. Barely getting any sleep. because the airport security was like going around making sure people aren't just like napping on the chairs or something like. There is a hotel. I found that there's a Hyatt Regency hotel built into Orlando International, but the hotels cost $200 a night. Yeah, I'm like, fuck. I guess I'm power napping on the bench. Fuck that shit. And so I finally braved it out, got on board the flight finally, and then finally made it. Made it to Miami International, called up an Uber, got home, put my luggage down, took a shower, and then hopped onto VR chat. Yeah, it's like for some reason I'm like, wait, despite all that, I still hopped on VR chat. And by the time it was like 8 or 9 in the evening, I've come to realize that technically I have been up since 5 in the morning the previous day. And I have been up for over 30 hours. Probably 34 hours. Fuck. I knocked out. What a time. That was the best time I've ever had from a convention in my life. Outside of Ferality. Ferality in VR is a unique experience all in its own. But Eve Fanfest was something different. Like, damn, it was something different. Like, you will drink a lot. You'll be tasting a lot of the local cuisines. People there are nice. Everything's within walking distance. It's more like, no wonder people there actually stay skinny. It's like everyone's always walking. Everyone's always hungry because everyone's always walking. So yeah, those good times. And I would do it again. I'm hoping next year I'll be able to go. I haven't reserved my ticket yet. That's because I just want to make sure I'll be able to go. But when I do, I'll be there. Hope you guys enjoyed that story. And for any of you, like if you ever decide to attend Fanfest, don't just attend Fanfest for Fanfest. Attend it for Iceland as well. There's a lot more to it than that. Like you'll see, they have all kinds of places that like they have tourist destinations there. They do have their own dedicated tour guides and all that stuff. They have their own excursions. They have the lava show. They have everything there. Unfortunately, I didn't really have time. I only scheduled enough time to be there, and I needed to have extra time just in case anything happened with me. Like if anything happened with my flight or it got delayed or anything like that. But next time, though, if I ever do come back to Iceland, I'll be sure to dedicate a little bit more time and money towards the excursions. I would love to see that. I would love to see the volcanoes. I would love to see the lava show and all that stuff. But yeah. Hope you all enjoyed that. And as usual, fly safe.